Alright, so today I'm going to teach you some basic Git Flow practices and concepts you can keep in mind. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download Git onto your computer. And if you don't already have an account, you should make a GitHub. Hopefully you do. Now, Git and GitHub are not the same thing, and in fact, they can be used for completely different purposes, but when used together, you can create a very good version control system. Now, the first question that you might have is, what is a version control system or scheme, which we shorten to as uh, VCS. You'll see that often in things such as plugins in integrated development environments, IDEs. You'll see that in VS Code. You'll see that pretty much everywhere. But VCS, version control system or scheme, is what that stands for. So the question is, what is that? Well, version control is how you manage the project that you're working on. So each uh, program or idea that you come up with is referred to as a project. And you store each project into what's called a GitHub repository. Change the color here. Now, why specifically do we want to use GitHub? Well, it's mostly free, and you can create a free student account if you have one. And a lot of the time, you'll also get paid by your workplace to have a work account on GitHub. And GitHub allows you to do a lot of cool things like uh, SSH, offline editing, editing from your phone. That's a recent addition with the creation of the GitHub app and all of that stuff. Pull requests and all of those things all within your browser. Plus, you can edit your project code with the GitHub desktop client. But I recommend integrated development environments, IDEs, or VS Code. Or if you want, you can just edit on a text file and then push straight into your repository. And we'll discuss how that can be done in a bit. But one of the more important things is the version aspect of it. We want to control the version of it. So each time you have a project, it's developed on your own host, right? So you'll work on it on your computer, your laptop, your phone, whatever. Now, each time you push these changes that you've made, push is going to be a keyword we'll see later, then you're changing the version of your project. And so this is what the version control is. And so we can improve this version control scheme and how all of these actions are put together with VCS through Git and GitHub. Now, Git allows you to perform different commands within a command line that allow you to access and change different things and push straight into a GitHub repository, which does have Git access. Now, how is this going to be done? Well, once you've downloaded Git, you can open it in any folder or resource location. And then once we open up Git, you're gonna end up with some sort of client that runs similarly to Vim and allows you to edit exactly how your code is working. And this is going to be pulled through different commands. I'm sure you already know some of these commands, but we're going to go over the basic ones anyways. To initialize a repository, you're going to say git init. Now that initializes the project. So now that you have a project in said resource location. So if we have a folder here, and once we call git init, then we've now created this to be some sort of Git folder with VCS. And then we can add files. This adds every file. Alternatively, you can add individual files. You just add the resource location. You can commit. Commit means stashing your changes. And then you're going to add a message with your commit. It's better if you always add this there. You're going to commit here. So we'll just label this as message. And that stashes every change you've made into, pretty much saves it onto your device. So then what you're going to want to do is, well, how is it supposed to work? Well, now we need to push these changes, but let's say that we haven't created a repository. Well, let's make one. So you're going to want to create a GitHub repository, and then you're going to do git remote add, and then you're going to add the repository link. It should end with a .git. Then you're going to push. Each time you push, you should set an upstream. And if you're working on the project with multiple people, then you can pull, you can merge, you can fetch, and there is a difference between these. A lot of people don't know the difference, but they are important differences. We're going to go over those differences right now. So the difference between these three is that git pull just pulls new changes. That don't revert anything, right? So if someone deletes, if, for example, a new file is added to the repository, then when you call git pull, it will add that. But let's say that you've made some changes to your fork or clone. We'll get into cloning in a second. To your clone of the repository or the project, and what ends up happening is you don't want to revert those changes that you've made. So calling git pull allows you to just pull those new changes. Git merge allows you to compare changes between others and your clone. And then git fetch fetches the most recent version of Upstream. Now, you might be wondering, what is an upstream? Well, an upstream is where you're grabbing these changes from, right? So if you make a fork of something, then your upstream is going to be the original, right? As an example. But an upstream could also be just whatever you're working on as well. Like the fork could be an upstream, and then the origin of an upstream could also be a branch within a specific location. So the definition, so pretty much you can think of upstream as going up the stream of the resource locations and say your computer. So like say we have documents, and then we have pictures, I guess. Then we have images 2020. So let's say that this is in version master. Well, the upstream for images 2020 would be pictures master. And then the upstream for pictures master could be documents. Now, a very important command that you can use is git clone repository. This is going to clone a repository into your computer and allow you to access and change versions of it, version control within your own host. Something you might be able to use is git blame if you're working with people and you want to figure out who caused a breaking change. Another thing that you can use is git, and then you'll have a command that you want to run, and then you can add force. Now, this is very dangerous. Force basically forces, as you can see, whatever the command that's running to happen. It forcibly causes it to happen. Now, if you know that it's not actually going to break anything, then you can do it, but it could cause major problems. And just know that there is a way to go back through commits. However, it is a lot more difficult than just adding new changes. And this is why you're going to want to develop multiple branches. So now let's get into branch development. So branch development. So what is branch development? Well, GitHub repositories can have multiple branches, and we refer to these as checkouts when we check them out. So we call the command git checkout, and then we do this -b specifies that we're making a new branch. If we don't have that, then it just says we're just checking out to another branch. Otherwise, you can just use git branch and then name the branch, and then like git branch name, and then there you go. So an important thing to note is that these are going to be your friend right here. And then referring to pull requests and working in GitHub is also going to work very nicely with this as well. So an important thing to note is that you will always have a master or main branch. This is where your main versions are going to be. So like for example, you're going to have version 0.0 or version 1.0 or version 2.0. So let's say we have version 0.2, and then that goes all the way down to version 1. Okay, so then we have a dev branch. Well, dev isn't right immediately after that, actually. We would have a hotfix branch is the next one. Hotfix means that if you fix like something that's a major, someone opens up an issue on GitHub and there's a major issue. Well, this only starts now we're going to put a star next to all the branches that exist for all time. Ones that don't have a star are deleted as soon as the pull request is merged. This would be titled hotfix hyphen whatever the name of the hotfix is. And then we would have that go there, and that moves there. Right? And then we have a dev branch. So this is short for development. This is where all of the main development is going to occur. Okay, hotfix should also be merged into dev. Now, the next one is going to be your feat branches, which are, now this one is always existing. All right, there we go. My bad. Anyways, these feat branches are going to be feat hyphen whatever the feature is that you've made. So note that these feature branches, boom, and then they get added. They're on like that. But then they die as soon as they serve their purpose. Then we have a release branch. This is for your release. You would do release hyphen the name of your release, or you can just name it the version tag, like v1.0. And then here is where you do all the development for your release. Planned ones, of course. And then what you do with your release, of course, is you merge them into dev, and then you merge dev into master. When you merge release into dev, then you delete the release branch. And that is some basic GitHub branching and GitHub actions. And so I think that this is going to be enough for this tutorial, and I hope that you've gained something from this.